Guys, good afternoon. Thank you for being here. It's a real honor. Today I arrived from Valencia actually 2 minutes before this panel starts, and that explains that it takes longer to travel from Valencia to London than from Shanghai to London, at least for my turn today. So I'm really glad to be here, to have made it in time. And indeed, the ForwardKeys as a travel intelligence company is gathering every day flight reservation bookings from all reservation systems worldwide, and then advanced and added with selected airlines, tour operator sales, search, etc., in order to build this crystal ball. However, a crystal ball that actually works, because the beauty of a travel booking is that you can look in time, foreseeing who actually already has made a booking for any future arrival in time. So that's what we do on a daily basis. The presentation that I brought with me is called the Chinese Roar, and I would like to really feed you with more data to come. So take a good close look at that with some recent analysis that we've done over the past weeks to get a good sense of the traffic flows from China into the rest of the world and specifically Europe. So basically, very briefly, this information is being used by all kinds of companies that are all having an eagerness to anticipate future arrivals of any travelers around the world, and specifically on the Chinese side. So as you can see, we have developed as a company into serving 12 different verticals for all kinds of businesses that are dependent on whether or not, and yes or no, the right travelers are arriving to their destinations in time. So basically, let us have first, to set the scene, some basic numbers that you're probably all aware of this incredible size and potential of the Chinese marketplace. Because every day, when we look into our data streams and data sources, we are fascinated to see how the Chinese marketplace is picking up, but also how they can make and break a destination within a relatively short time when something is not going correct. And I will show you some clear examples of how we have seen that throughout the last couple of years. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. And every time that we present this at any stage where there's, not so much knowledge about the Chinese market, it goes without saying that 27,000 travel agencies, 50% more than 8 years ago, are currently driving this marketplace. But hang on, look at there, 8.3% of Chinese possessing a passport. Put that into reference with, for example, the US market, where 36% of US travelers hold a passport. And according to CNTA, at least the expectations for 2020 is to reach 200 million outbound travelers. I think that's a bit on the very positive side if you look where we are currently to date, but it's a good example of where this market is leading to. And let's also do not forget about the spend opportunity. If we look and take the numbers from 2008, the last 8 years, of how Chinese outbound travelers spend their money wisely outside of China, we have already reached $261 billion US. And if you put that into perspective and you look at 2025, then it is estimated that 44% of luxury travel spent globally will be done by the Chinese. Chinese travelers cannot be just compared to any other travelers. They are the driving force. They are the growth engine of many destinations and many regions. But what we see in the data, if we look at their booking behavior or the booking behavior of Chinese in general, coming from the different areas, there's quite some remarkable findings that we've seen. Take a look, for example, on how Chinese travelers are responding, and Chinese government is responding to all kinds of events happening worldwide. What we see here is the before and the after of the THAAD missile crisis in Korea. So on the left side, you see a plus 5% of growth for Asian regions just before this happened. And then basically from the one month to the other, the travel itineraries really have changed and moved from South Korea to the rest of Asia. And being Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Vietnam, all with their respective reasons why the itineraries have gone to these destinations, experiencing a tremendous growth, whilst the Chinese travelers converted their ways into Asian countries. And maybe that's a little bit the elephant in the room, but under the Trump administration, the reason and the way that we've seen booking behavior of Chinese going to the US has had quite a remarkable impact. Look at the picture here. Current to date, we've recorded a -10 for bookings to the US, but in favor, and because of new route development and more bilateral exchanges, Canada is picking the fruits as well as Mexico. And let's go back a little bit more into detail for Europe. What we see here is already some years ago, but it was the moment for a remarkable change in time, how the Chinese reconverted their itineraries into the European landscape. Basically, what we see here is the 3 weeks after the Bataclan events happening in France. And basically, as an immediate response, all bookings obviously diverted to other areas, specifically to Russia and specifically to Vietnam. However, what happened after that, because I think Bataclan was a learning for all of us to see how to respond on these events. However, the difficulty with those events were specifically for France, that it lasted for more than a year before the travel booking behavior was back on a normal track. And I don't want to overcomplicate this. This is done by our analyst, and yes, it needs a little bit of an explanation, but you will find it on our website, and we will share this presentation afterwards. But on the left side, you see the main itineraries that Chinese undertook in Europe before the Bataclan events. And in the top 5 itineraries, 4 of them were via Charles de Gaulle. Charles de Gaulle, France, was a main part of that. After these events from happening, you see on the right side, we've seen quite some remarkable changes in the reroutings, where St. Petersburg, new destinations have become, a major element of the main destinations, and only 1 out of the 5 top destinations itineraries, Charles de Gaulle is currently a part of that. So, the UK, Nordics, Spain basically benefited from the travel itineraries here and are continuing to do so. And maybe here we see a little bit of the work of Mikko as well, in Finland being as well on the top destinations for the Chinese. If we look into our numbers and you look at the 5 fastest increasing destinations, then you see also some new breed of destinations like Czech Republic, supported by the One Belt, One Road initiative. Spain is on the rise. Finland is performing remarkably well. We currently estimate around 17% of the Chinese is just part within Europe of the global travel landscape, being that there's plenty of room for growth. And as well, if you look a little bit more to the traveler profiles, with how many people are the Chinese traveling together, how long are they staying, we see some really interesting comments. And to conclude on that, I would like to just give you the example of where our company is based as well in Spain, just as an example of how data analytics can help us all to be more relevant to Chinese making their way into the European landscape. If you look at the left side, you see some demographics, how fast and how far in advance Chinese are planning their trips, whether to go, with how many people they're traveling together, how long they stay. If you take this specifically, and that goes for any country within Europe, the dynamics behave differently. In Spain, it's more of a group travel destination as on the rise, and as well, the pre-booking days are much higher than the average in the rest of the world of when bookings are being made. So to communicate, to do the right marketing exercises, this is helpful in order to understand when to be most relevant. We talked about visas before as well, and I did not want to leave you behind without showing this chart but it shows the next months after a visa relief was imposed to several countries around the world, where you can see as well some exotic names in there, and how it has helped to drive Chinese coming to their destinations. It's a critical part. Last but not least, what I said and where I started with, a booking is a fantastic element to look into the future and make a crystal ball actually work. What you see here is the next 4 months from now and where we are with the booking behavior of Chinese going abroad. We looked at Canada on the rise. We as well see already some Catalan impacts here, where the rest of Western Europe is currently benefiting, and Spain sees just a 2% of increase in booking numbers as of now, where it was 17% before the 1st of October, when this event was starting to happen. So you see an immediate response on the travel itineraries and the booking behavior of the Chinese. And then on the right side, obviously, again, we are double-digit growth ahead for bookings for the next 4 months. And that looks very positive and very bright. With that, I would like to thank you for your attention to all this data. Thank you.